I was told to take him back upstairs because we was having a CQC inspected today. And if he hasn't had a shave, then we're going to get pulled up on that. And I said, he doesn't want a shave. Well, CQC are coming. And I can remember feeling really upset and gutted. I went back up, gave him a shave. He didn't want to have a shave. He wasn't distressed to the point he was hitting me, but I found it distressing and it was horrible. And from then, I never did it again.
If you are caring for someone else, whether paid or unpaid, and no matter how many hours you do it, did you realise that you may be missing out on thousands of pounds of discounts for things that you may use every day? The Able to Care podcast is proud to be sponsored by the UK's #1 carers card. Started by two best friends who recognise that carers deserve better and are 100% committed to helping to change the lives of all carers and bringing them together as a strong community. Carers Card UK provides support, recognition and rewards. It offers reassurance by providing an ID card that helps access emergency information when needed, while also unlocking discounts, a wellbeing hub, a carers circle tool and a community through their app. All of this for less than the price of a box of chocolates a year. There are discounts on gym membership, days out, electrical goods, clothing and even glasses. Let others know you care while taking a little care of yourself with an ID card you can be proud of. Visit carerscarduk.co.uk/promo code/able to care today to order yours. Hello and welcome to the Able to Care podcast. I am your host, Andy Baker, and joining me is Nadine Sutton.
Hello.
Hello. So we thought we'd cover a little bit on talking about personal care or dignity in personal care. We've been doing a few little topics around dignity particularly. So yeah, dignity in personal care. So I know it's an area that, you know, you've got a number of years experience under your belt as far as working in the care sector is concerned, and you have provided personal care on many occasions to many different individuals from different walks. So those living with learning disabilities or intellectual disabilities and those living with dementia as well. So, yeah, as far as dignity in personal care is concerned, why do you feel that's important? Why do you think it's something people need to be mindful of?
Yeah, usually with personal care, again, it's a very intimate thing to do. Family members might have to help each other with it. We tend to do it with our small babies and children and things like that. So it's associated with some, again, intimacy, I think.
Nurturing.
Yeah, nurturing. Yeah, and when I say intimacy, I don't mean the sexual kind. Yeah, it's more that kind of looking after, again, like you said, the nurturing and well-being and stuff like that. So coming from a care perspective, when I first started in care, the first time that I performed personal care or gave somebody personal care, I was a bit shocked because I was a bit like, oh, I hadn't had any care experience before. Yeah. And it was that kind of shock moment of like, this human cannot do this for themselves, so I've got to do it for them. So that's where I started thinking about, I think not obviously consciously, subconsciously thinking about the dignity in care sort of stuff. So I can tell you a lot of wrong things that happened. And even from my perspective as well, obviously I was a very young caregiver. I didn't have any experience. I feel like it's something that people think that other people should just know how to do because you do it to yourself. That's not the case because everybody does their own personal care really differently, don't they?
Yeah. So, I think as well for, even with family carers, for instance, you gave the example. I think, yes, we typically nurture children that way and we bath and clean and clean up after them and dress them and everything like that that's involved. And it is incredibly nurturing and it's something that builds attachments and connections and there's a lot of trust involved in it and things like that. I think even for family carers that, you know, you said the only experience we typically then tend to have if we haven't had children or children have grown up, it's been a while since, depending on the gender of the children, you've looked after yourself. You know how to look after yourself. But that doesn't mean you necessarily know how to, you know, I'll just be kind of saying it is wipe the bottom of the opposite gender, for instance, that you may never have done that before in your life. So it's a whole new thing of, well, how is that correctly done? Is it a different way of doing it? You know, I don't want to affect their dignity by doing it the wrong way massively. So I think it must be quite an intimidating experience to.
It was. And when I first started doing it, I was always really conscious that there was a human being. So I did have that awareness there. And I would look for facial expressions more because a lot of the clients that I worked with was non-verbal. So it was just even little things like sometimes we use this special sort of sanitizer to clean private parts and it was cold. So one time I didn't let the person know that it would come in and they just went like that and they did sort of a scrunched up face and I felt really guilty because I thought if somebody had done that to me, I'd probably want to deck them, without telling them. So I learned very slowly, but in a really positive way on the job. So it was those little things like tell them what you're going to do next. I wasn't taught that. I started to learn why it was important to do that. So I think this is where sometimes it's hard with personal care. It's all right me telling you need to speak to that person during personal care, but why? Because there's a sense of inclusion. This is my personal care and it keeps me included in it. We have it a lot in care where personal care is provided by 2 staff to one person and they're talking about what they did at the weekend. I mean, can you imagine being laid on a bed naked, non-verbal, not being able to express your needs or your wishes, and you've got 2 people just talking over you? I can only imagine the feelings might be your dicks.
Well, I've told this way with related to moving and handling stuff, where it's a case of if you imagine going into a shoe shop, asking somebody if you can try on some shoes, and there's a person who's kind of just taking your shoe off for you and putting this new shoe on, but all the time they're talking to another member of staff within the room, not talking to you about, is that okay? How's that feel? Let me know if that's uncomfortable, and just communicating what they're doing. Like all of us would walk out that shoe shop going, I'm never going in there again. That service was horrendous. So I think most of us can kind of relate to, or maybe imagine to some degree, we wouldn't enjoy that. Just somebody, and that's something as simple as taking your shoe on and off. And as you get to the more intimate, you want to be the focus of that attention a little bit, or just like being communicated with and asking permission to give you control all the way, even if it's, you may not be able to verbalize, but I should imagine it's a case of, right, we're going to do this next, if that's okay. And then kind of going through so they feel hopefully empowered to kind of stop or say no. Yeah,
that's it. And again, there's something sometimes when you're delivering personal care, you don't want to be disconnected. So a lot of the time what happens in care is that unregular staff, so maybe agency staff, again, this is not against agency staff, but might come in on shift and then they have to perform that personal care. Is it thought about of thoroughly? It's looked at as a task. With it being regulated constantly as well by CQC, one of the things that I always, they must have their faces shaved. They must have this. Yes, that meets CQC's requirements. It doesn't meet that person's requirement.
Yeah.
This one sticks in my head. This gentleman, we used to have to give him a shave. This one really upsets me actually. So we used to have to give him a shave. I remember one day I went to him and I said, can I shave your face? Showing him the razor so he was able. And he pushed my hand away like this. And I put it back again and he pushed my hand away. And I thought, well, he doesn't like having his face shaved. I bloody hated doing it. It wasn't an excuse to get out of doing it, but he non-verbally showed me that he didn't want that done. We got ready, brought him downstairs. I was told to take him back upstairs because we was having a CQC inspector today. And if he hasn't had a shave, then we're going to get pulled up on that. And I said, he doesn't want a shave. Well, CQC are coming. And I can remember feeling really upset and gutted. I went back up, gave him a shave. He didn't want to have a shave. I just, spoke through it, did it really tentatively with him. He wasn't distressed to the point he was hitting me, but I found it distressing and it was horrible. And from then I never did it again. And if anybody ever moaned at me, I'd say they don't want that. So it's listening to the service users, whether they're non-verbal or verbal, about what they actually want. It's looking out for that, not because it's a bloody tick box exercise. It's not fair.
It was, I was speaking to a carer recently, actually, that she's having a bit of a troubled time. The home that she's working in, she's seen a few bits of undignified practice is the nicest way to put it. It was, and they were trying to, working with, again, an agency staff, and the agency staff was trying to get the pad on this lady, and the lady was not opening her legs, or this person obviously didn't feel like the lady was cooperating very well, but again, hip problems and stuff like that because of the lady's age. But he just kind of kept very firmly telling her, you need to open your legs, you need to open your legs. And this was a man doing this to a woman as well. And then he just forced the legs open and then kind of put the pad in and kind of got irritated with her. And she has whistleblowed on it and sort of said, this isn't okay. And this person needs education. And it's not about, I don't think the person's bad. I think they need educating.
For many of us, to be naked in front of people is quite a really vulnerable thing.
Massively vulnerable.
I mean, unless you're an exhibitionist, then that's off to the odds. You do you.
That's it. Yeah, we've spoken about that before, haven't we? As far as, I know there's been situations and occasions where a caregiver has been providing some level of personal care or bathing or showering an individual, and then another carer has kind of just knocked on the door and walked into the bathroom because they need to get something out of the cupboard or they just need to do something. And I don't think that carer is being bad. They're being thoughtless, but they're kind of in that mentality of, I've seen it all before. I bathed them earlier and I showered earlier. And I try and get over that. I mean, most of us live with somebody who's seen us naked, but that doesn't mean we feel comfortable just having the door. We still, most of us lock the bathroom or close the bathroom door when we're in there. Some people aren't. Some people are toilet door open, waving at you as you walk up the stairs. But most people have an element of privacy around it. And again, that's very person-centered. And there's a big difference between having one person seeing you naked at a time and then almost putting chairs out to put on a show. Do you know what I mean? I'd let anybody in. It's how's that going to have a knock-on effect? Their sense of humanity, their dignity, their sense of feeling like they're worthwhile and giving them that good quality of life, as far as I'm so unimportant that I'm not even treated as a human anymore.
I can only imagine, again, they end up feeling like a task and not a human, And it's having empathy for them. It's having time, which again, we always hear, there's no time and we're in a rush. We've got to get bed number 7 up and things like that. But all of those things massively impact on that interaction. And this is where you see massive behaviours around personal care. I had it the other day. Oh, she always kicks off during personal care. Well, if somebody was wiping again, it goes back to that. So yeah, why is this such a big shock? Personal care is a really, really, it's such a personal thing.
And if you don't understand why it's happening, why you don't have autonomy over yourself and stuff like that, of course, it's really natural to lash out and hit out and feel
you don't
distressed.
even get a choice about who does your personal care.
Which is odd, isn't it? Because it should be like...
I'd want to bloody choose, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Female for me.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's another challenge, isn't it, for many care organisations? I know there was shifts, no single male carer should be going in and providing personal care to a female resident and stuff, but it should be both ways around to some degree. Because, I think it is perceived as very one way, but there is, sexual abuse does happen from both sides, or it may be I don't feel comfortable. Well, again, it should be that choice. Yeah. I have preferred, like in certain circumstances, a male doctor rather than a female doctor for me in certain things that I've talked about and stuff, because it just feels a bit more private. I feel more comfortable. But sometimes it's been the other way around. Yeah. That maybe it's because in certain areas it's maybe more like a motherly kind of thing, a nurturing kind of thing that might feel more comfortable.
What areas you were going for then?
I'm not going to disclose too much. Let me ask you a question. Do you ever find the pressures of supporting, teaching, or caring for someone else overwhelming and wish you had access to more support and information? The Able to Care podcast, in connection with Able Training, has created the ablehub.uk, where for less than the price of a coffee a week, you can access exclusive podcast content, resources, events, and over 45 certified online courses, covering topics like self-care, understanding dementia, neurodiversity, first aid, conflict management, financial advice, and so much more, with new content and courses being added each month. We are so confident that you will benefit from the Able Hub that we are offering 14 days access completely free of charge. No contract, cancel anytime. Become part of the ablehub.uk community and gain the support, knowledge, and resources you deserve. Don't struggle alone. Be able. Find the link in the description. I'll give you another example where this was one what I raised within the management team, that I was teaching a safeguarding course, and this lady came up to me afterwards and spoke to me about it, that she was quite upset. And she was actually a member of the kitchen staff at this particular home. And she said, I was taking the food out for some of the residents. This particular gentleman had his food in his room. I knocked on the door. The carer that was in the room said, "Come in." But this gentleman was laid completely naked, no towel covering or anything, just completely naked, on the bed, and she was kind of partway through giving him a bed bath. And it wasn't him that gave permission for the kitchen staff to come in. It was a carer who gave permission for the kitchen staff to come in. And she said, I didn't feel it was right. And it's like, 100% it isn't right. One, that's not the appropriate way to give a bed bath. Now, I know there is quite a lot of evidence around those living with dementia that bed baths might actually be the least distressing way of helping them and maintaining their personal care, but there's still a dignified and an undignified way of doing it.
Of course.
But also, again, that just taking for granted, that lack of conscientiousness, lack of forethought, going, well, how would he feel? And it's the do as you would be done by. How would I feel if I was laid naked and the door was opened and somebody brought him food? I'm not hungry right there and then anyway. It's not appropriate for me to eat. So, so how have you... What are the best things that you've found to kind of promote dignity and connection and stuff like that with those that you've worked with?
Including them in the personal care. So even if it's some people that do struggle with some, motor skills and things like that, it could be things like, I've got a flannel. Can you just wipe your flannel around your face for me? Oh, well done. That's amazing. Stick this arm up. And we can do it in just getting them joined in. Making sure that they're warm is usually a big one. So, if I was cleaning top off, bottom off would be covered. I'd quickly dry top off, cover that, and then do it vice versa. Not over rush it, but don't prolong it if I don't need to. So it's going with their pace, because sometimes some people don't want to have personal care, but they don't always have that awareness that there might be obvious reasons as to why. So it's trying to make it as distressing, the least stressful as possible. So, but again, talking through. So this is where it works really well, especially if you've got clients that say sort of 2-to-1. So one person communicating, maybe doing the funny noises that the person likes, or singing the favourite songs, having music on in the background, or even having something that can distract, often really works really well. And then the other person can kind of do the other part. So, I'll go fetch the flannel and you're the one who's doing the sort of entertaining or engaging or whatever it is. But yes, including them in their personal care, but showing them after. So, one gent that I used to work with, we used to put his aftershave on. We'd go through everything, and it could take a good hour, but that was fine. It's part of his personal care. Then we'd get the mirror and we'd say, oh my God, who's so handsome? And he'd say, oh, I am. And I'd say, look, let's have a look in the mirror. And he'd go, oh, and start stroking his own hair. So again, it's that kind of, this is the end goal. This is the achievement and the feeling that we're after. So how we all feel, most people feel when they've had a bath and stuff like that. Given the choice, he would want that. Yeah. Said his family member and friends, not me. But, in that sort of respect. So I think it's keeping the inclusion, but also not being scared to tell other staff. So if you knock and I don't say come in, don't bloody come in. Yeah. Yeah? Can you cover that person up? Don't empty the catheter inside the lounge and bring a bloody bucket, because I've seen that happen 1,000 times and it really winds me up. Yeah? Don't say to somebody, oh, we need to go and change your pad in front of everybody else. It's all these little things that make a massive difference to that human being. And they are a human being. They're not a task.
I think there's some really good points in there, and they wouldn't necessarily be perceived as a safeguarding issue. They don't meet the threshold of what a lot of people perceive as a safeguarding issue, but they're on that. They're the near miss, aren't they? And I was having a chat with somebody recently around the, within health and safety, we have what are called near misses, where if you keep tripping on a wire, at some point somebody's going to really badly fall over and hurt themselves. So don't wait for the accident to happen. Raise the concern about the wire being there in the first place. And I think you could map that over exactly the same to safeguarding. That don't wait for there a major incident, an allegation, a complaint that somebody become stressed. If you're seeing bad practice, raise it straight away. If you don't feel comfortable to raise it with the person, then raise it to the person above them. Or, there is quite a lot of speak up kind of communities and societies and organizations that you might be able to go to kind of go, look, I'm worried about this and I'm not happy about this. And it's not about condemnation. It's something about education. I remember teaching, I was teaching a group, and there was a younger lad in this team who, he was also quite young, a bit grinning behind the ears, maybe hadn't got the life experience to know. And he was confused when teaching safeguarding that if somebody had a pad on, why did they still need to go to the toilet? Yeah. So if they had, please, I need to go to the toilet, he kind of thought it was okay to kind of go, but you've got a pad on, you're okay. And he wasn't a bad lad. He wasn't an evil person.
Most
he wasn't.
people aren't,
yeah.
are they?
And I tried to go over to him going like, you've probably spent a number of years not wetting yourself or not going in your own underwear for a long time. And you got lots of reinforcement of why that was a good thing. So then suddenly going, oh, just forget about that. Forget about everything you know. Like now just go back to what you did before. I think you'd find that difficult. And he hadn't thought of it that way. He thought it's just, but that's what I thought it's for. But that's just pure education. That's pure. It's not malice. It's ignorance.
I honestly wish I knew then what I know now, because I'd have been a 10 times better carer. But you can only work with the knowledge that you're being given at the time. And workplace culture plays so much into this. So you live and learn. And there will be things that you don't think are right. There were certainly things where I thought, this doesn't feel right, or that doesn't seem okay. But, everybody else is doing it, so I'll just go along and do it. But I think nowadays the culture's changed massively compared to when I started years and years ago. And we are a bit more, we do advocate for people now. And hang on a minute, they're, like you said, do I want that person coming into my room whilst I'm naked on my bed? Who's thinking for that individual? I think we are slowly getting there, but it's where we need good training under.
It is, yeah. Yeah. And I know we've spoken about, obviously, and I've got an association with a lady in an organisation who's going to be on the podcast, either has been or is going to be, who's promoting the safety monitoring in care homes, particularly around dementia, where it does kind of monitor staff to their best practice. But it's not about picking at them to kind of go, you're not good enough. It also points out gold moments and really good practice as well.
I think it's a case of what can we do better? Yeah. And always in care, you've always got to keep reflecting, because things are always going to happen.
So most people, when they're learning personal care, though, there's not usually a course that's delivered or anything like that. It's usually just purely done shadowing and supervision, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it all depends on whoever you're shadowing and supervising, whether they're good practice. So this is where, because I know that the lady I was speaking to is quite upset and distressed about a number of things that are going on. She recognised there was a different culture during the day to at night, and she works nights. And there isn't the same, obviously, management supervision and things like that to be checking on people at night shift to make sure that culture is universal. Both day and night are all working in the same way and consistently to maintain that dignity. And that's where sometimes training or supervision or managers stepping outside their normal hours that they come in and go spot checks and things like that kind of are really important to kind of, but it's also having that speak up culture to kind of go, hey, if you're not happy, do it, say it now. It's not about condemning. It's about, this is an area for re-education. This is an area for improvement. Because any carer, and maybe this is, we focus on the paid carers more than the unpaid caregivers, because I think they would really benefit from learning how to maybe do personal care with dignity. If you've never looked after your husband in that way, how would you know how to do it?
Do you know what? It's okay to tell your husband to F off, but not a resident or a service user or a client or something.
Absolutely.
So it's where it's.
You shouldn't really tell your partner to F off either. Just
we all do it, and we all do it.
But I know that one of the things we're going to be looking to do with the ablehub.uk is providing some resources for unpaid caregivers on there to see how they can kind of know how to do some practice, moving and handling and first aid practice, but also the personal care side of things as well. And we're going to try and create some resources for them to have better skills and everything. And maybe, I mean, there is videos out there already where you can go and sort of see also how should I be doing this particular thing. If you think the supervision or the training you're getting on the job isn't great, then there is resources out there. But I think for any of us, if you feel, as you said, when you first started, it's quite an overwhelming and intimidating and a difficult thing, and you want to get it right.
You do. You worry about it. At the time, I think one of the biggest things I wish somebody had said to me, like, don't worry about the task, focus on the person. Whereas I was so fixated on making sure that Susie was presented really lovely and making sure that Karen did brush her teeth. And that's what, I wanted to tick those boxes because I thought that's what I needed to do. And I quickly realised, I was like, this doesn't feel okay. She don't want to clean her teeth today. She's told me to F off. She's hit me. So take the hint. Basically.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. So it sounds like there's always room for improvement with any caregiver out there. The culture is massively important, again, of making sure that everybody's kind of working. And as you say, I think the important thing, if we just step into that position of it's not a task, it's a person. I think that's such an important first step, isn't it? They're going, work with the person to get the best outcomes. I'll finish us off with a bit of a story from one of my best friends who worked in domiciliary care. And I remember a story that he mentioned. This guy who'd had a motorcycle accident and he was now getting care. And at the end of the care he'd received from my friend, he said, like, thank you. That's the first time I felt dignified to the hospital. And all that my friend had done differently from maybe any carer that had gone in, he'd just kind of handed him the sponge and said, like, go for your life, mate. Just let me know what you can't do. Rather than just doing it for him as well, which is, again, that's that all the things we've mentioned, the promoting dignity, the independence, the do as you will be done by principle, the bits you mentioned there was really good, like keeping them warm, taking your time. So that's being efficient. So like have the stuff ready before you start, not leaving them naked on the bed and going, oh, I forgot this. So your stuff ready and stuff like that's important, isn't it?
I think it's engaging with them about what they like. And some, personal care is not always going to be comfortable. I have met clients that have really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, and they've really gone into it and pampered with it and stuff. But it's a case of, oh, I don't like this, and it's like, right, I tell you what, do you want us to do it as quick as we can? Yeah, let's bloody get it over and done with. So talk to me about your favourite rugby team, and we've managed to, and oh, you done already? Yeah, thank God for that. And it's that kind of. So it's just a person.
Yeah, person. Yeah. But I suppose, again, if you've got somebody talking to you about something distracting you while you're doing it, all goes, making it a positive experience. So, right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your opinions and stuff. I think they're really, really useful, and hopefully people out there will find them beneficial. So if you have found anything we've spoken about today useful, interesting, or you would like to comment, please do. And then make sure you share it with others as well. I did get mentioned with that person I was talking to, like, I wish more carers knew how to do it correctly. So if you're one of those carers who wishes others did, then please share this episode with them to kind of get them to think at least, or explore more information. But thank you very much.
Well, bye.